Hey, throughout the summer, we've worked our way through a series we've called Steps. Steps is based on a book written by John Ortberg, which learns from the recovery communities, particularly Alcoholics Anonymous, about what they can teach the Christian faith. And throughout the summer, we've shared a lot of stories. Many of you have come forward and stood on the stage and shared their story about their own recovery or their own journey through addiction or their own experience with sobriety. And I want to share with you a little bit of my story as we get a little bit closer toward the end of the series here. Probably like many of you, I grew up in a home where drugs and alcohol were never present. In fact, I've never once seen my parents have an alcoholic drink in their lives. And that's a blessing. It came with a lot of gifts that I inherited a stable home environment. I never saw my parents out of control or under the influence of a different substance or alcohol like that. But that's the blessing. The challenge that comes with that is I had very little experience of those who struggled with drugs or alcohol, which made it really easy for me to dismiss people who did struggle with it, to judge them and to blame them for their problems. My wife and I started dating 21 years ago. 19 years ago, we got married. And as we started dating, it became clearer and clearer to both of us that somebody in our extended family had a problem, a big problem. And as the lies and excuses started to mount, the relationships around that person started to break, and the connection got further and further and lost. It seemed like the more they struggled, the more broken their life became, and the more distance between us and them was created. Now, distance comes from a variety of reasons. Like we get to these moments in life and we choose to go this way, and because that person might be struggling with something, they choose to go a different way. The other reason that distance gets created is because when they make a decision that hurts them or hurts me, it's like a bomb going off in their life, and bombs create shrapnel, and the further I am away from the shrapnel, the less likely I'm to be hurt by their mistakes. And so naturally, over a course of years, the distance between us and that person grew further and further away. They had said they were getting it under control, that they were trying different things. They had gone to different treatments and treatment centers. But to be honest, I can speak for myself, I didn't have much hope that things would ever be different. In fact, I always assumed that one day we'd just get a phone call that that person had died. And they'd reached the natural conclusion of their addictive behavior. In recovery, people say, I got help. You heard somebody say that before? I got help. And that's what happened on the 6th or 8th or 15th try. The treatment worked. A treatment worked. In their particular case, the treatment that was most transformative was that they found themselves in a recovery community that was really good at community. They cared for each other. They loved each other. They went and did fun things together. They lived life together. And along the way, that person in our life got a renewed relationship with God and started to renew their relationships with their extended family. I will tell you that the transformation was not immediate. It was not months. It was years. And if you've ever loved an addict or somebody that struggles deeply to break through an addictive or destructive part of their personality, it's really hard to be hopeful with a person like that in your life. Because you keep waiting for them to mess up again, to relapse, to tell another lie, and so you still kind of assume they're deceiving you. You hold them at an arm's length, and that's definitely what happened. It took years for them to really live into recovery and for us to trust them. I remember specifically one time being gathered as a larger extended family, and there was a conversation off to the side that my wife and I happened to be with that person. And they said to me something, I'm going to paraphrase the conversation, but they said, hey, I need to tell you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the dumb things I did and the things I don't even remember doing. I'm sorry that I hurt you and your kids. I wasn't who I wanted to be. I want to do better. I hope that you can forgive me. Now, apologies don't fix everything, but they're sure a great start, aren't they? That didn't take away the pain from the years of disappointment, frustrations, but it went toward renewing that relationship. And I can tell you years after that conversation how grateful I am to see the work God's done in that person's life, how proud of them they are, and how wonderful it is to see the renewed relationships get there. I tell you that story because I wonder if for some of you there's some broken and lost relationships. Maybe substances like alcohol and drugs are involved. Maybe it's just something else. There's just distant relationships. And maybe you can relate to what it feels like to give up that there's a future for that relationship. I'm here as a follower of Jesus, hoping you as a follower of Jesus might believe in hope. And so with that in mind, I want to take you to a scripture I actually read last week. It's one I've used often. It's Romans 12:18. The words are on the screen. I want you to actually read this with me. If it's possible, okay, let's read it together. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. I had no idea that when I became a pastor, so much of my life would be dealing with other people's conflict. It's every day. Every single day. Sometimes it's my own, but often it's helping each of you or many of you just walk through a challenging relationship at work or in your family or in your neighborhood or with another person in the church. Last Sunday, I stood here and said, hey, if you need help with this, reach out to me. I'd love to sit down. You remember me saying that? A lot of you did. I had the most meetings I've ever had last week. Somebody on my staff said, I've never seen you go and say, I got another meeting, I got another meeting, I got another meeting. Me and the people at Starbucks are like this right now, okay? I don't need one more warm, hot chocolate mocha, okay? So we're going to go a little bit further in this conflict series a little bit this morning and actually just talk through how do we clean up messes. So the first thing I want to start with this. I think this is a near universal thought. I don't like conflict. Anybody with me? Okay? Look around. Most of us don't like conflict. We don't like it in our work, in our neighborhood, in our marriage, in our family, right? We don't like it. But there are a bunch of things I really do like. I really do like reconciliation. Like I like when things are fixed. And I like strong relationships where I don't have to worry if I say the wrong thing, we're done. I like deep connections where we can go to the bottom end of the pool and talk about the things that matter most in life. I love seeing healthy families. And I really, really love to play. Like I love to have a good time and be with people and enjoy the goodness of life. And what I've come to realize is you can't get the stuff on the right side of the list if you're not willing to work through conflict. Go back to elementary school. You're playing on the playground. Guess what happens is if you can't figure out how to play at the playground, recess is over. There's no more playtime because you can't figure it out, right? The same is true in all those other things. If you can't figure out how to work through conflict, you're going to miss out on deep relationships, strong families, and deep, deep, significant connection. So here's how I would think about this. Conflict is inevitable. Growth is optional. That means if you're going to grow, you got to get used to being uncomfortable. And that's true in almost every part of your life. Now, it might surprise you, but 2,000 years ago at the time of Jesus, when the New Testament the stories happen and then gets written after it, there's tons of conflict. There's conflict between families, there's conflict in politics, there's conflicts between neighbors and business partners. And here comes this news about Jesus, what we call the gospel, the good news about Jesus. And the good news about Jesus, the gospel, is radically hopeful and unifying in a world of division and conflict. Anybody here live in a world of conflict and division, right? So you come into that world with the good news about Jesus. The reason you're here right now is to be shaped by the ideas, teachings, and practices of Jesus so that you can go and be a person who unifies and connects people where they want to go the other way. So that means I've got to teach you how to clean up a mess. You ready? You sure? It's going to be fun. We're going to get uncomfortable together. All right. The text today is Matthew chapter 5. I'd love for you to read along. I'm going to read 4 different parts from the same chapter. It's the teachings of Jesus. Now, Jesus happens to be the greatest teacher of all time, and his greatest hit is what we call the Sermon on the Mount. It's Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Matthew 5 starts with what's called the Beatitudes. And one of them is the first verse we're going to read today. It's Matthew 5, verse 9. This is the Beatitude. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. One more time. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. The truth is, making peace is kind of hard, isn't it? Parents, nod if you've had children. Right? Making peace is challenging. What's the most dangerous place on the battlefield? Between the two sides that are fighting each other. But Christians are called to that middle space in between relationships or their own conflict to move to the middle. The problem I have is I look at that and say, well, that's one of Jesus' Beatitudes. And those are multiple choice, right? Like I can pick which ones I like. But that's not true. Jesus says, if you make peace, you will be blessed. And people around you will say, you must be a child of God. You must be a child of God because you go to places where there's conflict and division, and somehow, by your behaviors or your actions or your words, you make peace. Now, this isn't the last thing Jesus says about peace. We're still in Matthew 5. Now we go 12 verses later, and we read these words of Jesus. Jesus said, You've heard that it was said to people long ago, you shall not murder. And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. Anybody heard that before? You shall not murder? It's the 6th of 10 commandments, right? And it's the most obvious, the most universal one. And if you do murder someone, we're going to have a conversation about it. Okay? That's pretty much a universal rule no matter where you are in the world. If somebody gets killed, the government is going to bring you in and say, we need to talk about if that was justified, appropriate, self-defense, or wrong. And that's usually in our culture called a trial, right? Murder's bad for society. Murders are subject to judgment. Now, that's so obvious that I'm sure when people heard Jesus say that, they're like, okay, good. I've never murdered anybody. I'm good, right? Anybody feeling pretty good about themselves? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand if you've murdered anybody. Okay? Jesus continues. Verse 22. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. So Jesus took this universal rule around murder and goes like way beyond it. Not just if you murdered anybody, but if you've gotten mad at someone. I bet you want to know what Raka translates to, don't you? I do. So I looked it up. The best translation of the word Raka would be airhead. If you said, anything going on up there? You're really dumb. You're subject to judgment. And if you said, you fool, which in Greek would translate to stupid, you're subject to the punishment that is separation from God, which is hell. I'm not feeling so good right now because I can look back since I was about 4 years old. I've been calling people airhead, stupid, idiot, moron, dum-dum. So what does that mean? Last week I taught from Leviticus chapter 6, which says if you've got a conflict with your brother or sister, you've got a conflict with God. And this is just kind of really an echo of that same idea. If you've done something wrong to somebody, if you've taken from them, if you've hurt them, if you've done damage to their property, you should go to them and you should repay the full price for it and 20% on top of it, and then you can go to God and make your offering. But your offering is worthless if you've not done that first, which just sets us up for the next thing that Jesus says, Matthew 5:23. Therefore, Jesus says, if you're offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Our relationship with God is a direct consequence of our relationship to other people. So imagine this. It's 2,000 years ago. You walk the dozens of steps up the Temple Mount. You're going there to present an offering, to worship God, to be surrounded by the community of believers in the Lord. And when you get to the top where the altar is, you see like dozens of goats unattended and doves that nobody has gotten track of. You're like, what's going on? And you ask the priest, what happened? Oh, the priest says, well, we ask people before they make their offering if they've got conflict with anybody else to go and deal with it first. I'm like, oh, so everybody just left all their offerings here. That's what it would be like. It'd be like if when we take the offering in a little bit, I said, hey, before we take the offering, if your heart's not right because of a broken relationship, that you need to take responsibility for something that's gone wrong in your family, in your friendships, in your neighborhood, in your work, in your school, would you just go into the lobby and make a phone call first? Like 2/3 of us would leave. Right? I mean, Jesus is getting to the heart of broken relationships and says it does matter what's happening between you and other people. It does affect you and your relationship with God. And this idea that I've just shared with you actually shouldn't be new to most of you. You know the prayer, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, debts, trespasses, whatever language you want to use, as we forgive those who sinned against us. If you came here to get right with God today, we're really glad you're here, but guess what? God's inviting you also to get right with the people in your life. And I know that that's hard and uncomfortable and awkward, but it's also the place where powerful things happen. Let me give you a couple more reasons why you should do it, and then we'll jump into how to, okay? Jesus says, verse 25, settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you're still together on the way, and your adversary who may hand you over to your adversary may hand you over to the judge. And the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may get thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you pay the last penny. Listen, there's 3 really simple, basic reasons why you should address conflict in your life. Number 1, if you don't address conflict in your life, if it goes unaddressed, you are in danger of earthly judgment. If we've got an issue, guess what? They might bring me to court. And then I'm going to get sued, and then I've got to do something about it, or I might go to prison because we've not done with it. What I would be smart to do is, as we're going to court, to the very last minute, hey, buddy, can we work this out? We really don't need to go. Let's not get lawyers involved. Let's not draw this up. Come on, let's figure it out. That's option number 1. Option 2, if you have unresolved conflict in your life, you're actually in danger of divine judgment. That God is not pleased with you treating that person poorly. And so if you're not going to deal with it, guess what? God's going to say, if you don't love them, you don't really love me. And the third reason is maybe the most basic and human one. If you let the conflict grow, you're in greater physical danger. Because if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And if you live by broken relationships, most of your relationships are going to eventually break. It turns out that Jesus was right. If you are a peacemaker, you are blessed because you're not going to go to court nearly as much. And you're going to have better relationships and stronger community. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Now, that doesn't mean I get to control the other person. I can't. I can just do my part. But so many of you in the room right now are letting your fear of conflict keep you from the life you really want. I know you don't like conflict. None of us do. But if you keep living and serving that false God, you will never break free to the life God intends for you. You'll miss out on growth, maturity, depth, joy, play, all the good stuff. So let's talk about how do we clean up a conflict? How do we clean up a mess? 4 things. And this is a recipe. All 4 are important. They come in this order. It's very intentional. How do you clean up a mess? Number 1, you acknowledge the mess and your role in it. You might want to write this down or take a picture. Number 2, you get present to the impact your actions have created. We're going to walk through all 4 of them. Number 3, you then offer a sincere apology. And 4, you renew or release the relationship. Now, a bunch of you are saying, I don't think this applies to me, Pastor. Like, I know I've had some issues in the past with some people, but that's all good. It's all resolved. Like there's no here. We're good. That might be true, and I hope that is. Here's how you tell. If you've got a conflict with somebody or you have past one that you think is resolved, go to them and say, hey, I don't know for sure, but are we okay? We've had problems in the past. And I think we're past them, but I don't know for sure. Does our relationship feel like one where there's peace? Can we have a good thing in the future? And give them the opportunity to tell you, because guess what happens? Sometimes we're wrong. A fun story. Last week, I challenged you to go and work on some reconciliation in your life, and many of you took me up on that, which I love. That's awesome. One of you sent me a text in the middle of the week and said, you left here and felt deeply convicted about reaching out to a sibling, about something that happened years ago that they never talked about. And so they left here, and they sent me the screenshot of the text message, the back and forth. And this person apologized for what they had said and felt terrible. They've been holding this weight for years. And you know what their sibling said? I kind of forgot about that. We're good. Some of you are unnecessarily carrying grief that you don't need to carry. You can let it go. You just need to make sure. And others of you aren't carrying grief around a broken relationship that could be so much better. The only way you know is if you talk to the other person in the relationship with you. Are we good? So let's work through those four really quick. The first one is kind of simple. Acknowledge the mess, and you're rolling it. So it's like saying, hey, I can see that something's wrong, and I think I had something to do with it. That's the first step. And actually, we just slow down right there and just kind of do that. Peacemakers make the first move. They go to the person and just say, is there a mess? Is there a mess? It seems like there's a mess to me. I can feel a distance or a conflict, and I acknowledge that. The second step is where the gold gets made, okay? This is the good stuff. Get present to the impact your actions have created. This is what you all want to skip over, right? You want to clean up your messes like a middle schooler cleans up their room. Jam it into a drawer, hide it under the bed, and say, it's good. Spray some Axe body spray and Febreze on it, and we're great. But that is not a renewed relationship. That is not reconciliation. That's just covering it up and acting like, hoping that they don't notice. What it looks like actually is like going to the person and saying, I know that I did something wrong, but I don't know what the impact was for you. Would you be courageous enough to just tell me how my decisions or actions or lack of action has impacted you? And then, this is really hard, we listen. We don't make excuses. We don't interrupt. We don't explain ourselves. We don't point out their part of it. We don't justify our actions. We don't deflect. We don't get defensive. We just listen until they're done. And then we might even be so smart as to repeat what we heard them say to make sure we got it right. We have a tendency when we're in conflict, right, that we start preparing our counter punch as they're talking. You know what I'm doing? Right? Like, I know what you're saying, but I'm going to get you with the next one. Just put the boxer away. Be a lover, not a fighter. Listen. Now, that's really powerful for three reasons. When you actually listen to someone, you start to show them that you care about them, which restores trust. You gain incentive to not do it again, and you gain insight into what went wrong in the past. Now, suddenly we're ready for a sincere apology. I can actually apologize because I know what I've done to you. Else I was just apologizing for what I thought I did to you or what I told myself I did to you. Now the apology is authentic, stronger, more powerful, right? Last one, and this is significant. If you've done this work with somebody and you've actually acknowledged the mess, you've listened to understand your impact in it, you've offered a sincere apology, you've got a choice to renew the relationship or release it. Renewing the relationship says, like, hey, let's give it another chance. Let's go in, let's work on this project again together. Let's stay connected. Let's text each other again. Let's hang out again. Releasing the relationship says, hey, I think what's done is done. I ask for your forgiveness. You've granted that. Thank you. I forgive you for what you've done. It's probably best for us to just hang out in different spaces. And I'm going to tell you as a Christian, that's okay. You can love your neighbor without being with them all of the time. You've done what Romans 12:18 says. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Now, I recognize that today's message was a little bit heavy and hard and maybe kind of serious. So I thought we'd end with like a fun role play. Is that cool? Awesome. Justin, come on up. Now, let's imagine that my friend Justin and I aren't really friends anymore. And there's like a little bit of conflict between the two of us. We used to be tight. We used to get along. And then something happened, and over time, when we used to be friends, a distance was created. And over time, we just moved further and further away. Some of you, or us, want to resolve our conflict by just acting like it's not there. So option one is just to ignore each other. And hope it goes away and hope it feels different. But over time, what's really going to happen actually is we're going to grow further and further apart. I hope you understand is that this doesn't work, does it? Option two. Option two is where one of you, wanting, uncomfortable with the conflict, wants it to be resolved, would say something like, "Hey, Justin."
What's up, Chad?
Hey, remember that thing back then?
No, not at all. Which thing? There's many.
I mean, at one time where it just wasn't, I'm sorry, man, we cool?
Maybe? No?
That's option two, an insincere, half-hearted, inauthentic, shallow apology. What we've invited you to is option three, which would look something more like this. "Hey, Justin, and it's hard to say this, but it feels like there's kind of some conflict between us. Do you feel that?"
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't actually know quite what all went wrong, but I'm pretty sure I had something to do with it.
Just a little bit.
Can we talk about it for like a couple minutes?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. So here's what I know. I think I remember back in like 2015, for sure in 2016, 17, 18, 2020, and 2025, when me and my friends were just having a great time, we said some pretty unkind things about you and your friends and your stadium. And that wasn't cool. But is there anything else that I don't know about?
Yeah, that's pretty hard. You were also, for about a decade, pretty obnoxious. Some might say a century.
That's fair.
Yeah, and you're kind of arrogant whenever you win.
True.
Not very humble when you lose. It's just been kind of hard to be around you recently.
Yep, and then like this year you guys are kind of surprisingly good.
Happens.
And I'm really happy. I want to be happy for you, but it's kind of hard.
I can see that. Thanks for trying.
You're welcome. I'm sorry. I'd like to be better and happier for you. Do you think we could find other things to do besides talk about baseball?
I think so. I think we could. Thanks for apologizing, but I do need you to know, Chad, I'm not going to root for your team.
I don't expect you to root for my team. As an act of compassion and grace, we will cheer for you, not this week when we play you. Good. Do you see how much better that is? We thought we'd have a little bit of fun with that, but also a practical way of that's what cleaning up a mess looks like. Some of your messes are really significant and sincere and hard to work through, but the process is actually pretty similar. Acknowledge the pain. Listen. offer a sincere apology after you've listened, and then renew or release the relationship for what God has next for you. I want to pray for you, because I know that hopefully this has unlocked or opened up some wounds that you're thinking about in a new way. Let's pray for God's grace.